Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I found myself in deep conversation at the garage talking about the changing landscape of the automotive world. We're at a major turning point, and I don't think this has ever happened in the world of cars before. With every brand now shifting focus towards electric-only models, it's a bit of a bittersweet moment for petrolheads like us. In 2023 alone, we bid farewell to some classics like the Ford GT, and company car favourite, the VW Passat. Now, I didn't even know that until I started researching this video, but you can't buy a Passat anymore. It just seems really strange. And also the Golf's going soon as well. And the VW Golf's been around since the 70s. And the more I looked into this, the more I realised we've lost an awful lot of cars. Even things like, now don't laugh now, but we've got a Chevrolet Spark as a company car. That hasn't been around since 2015. Not that actual car, we've had it a while, but the Chevrolet Spark you can't buy. So today I thought I'd celebrate these soon-to-be extinct cars, and they're all cars which I think you should consider buying before you can't anymore. Right, let's get started. First up then is the Audi R8. Now the Audi R8's been around since 2007, and I'm quite ashamed to say I've never driven one, I've never even been in one, and it's about time I got one on the channel for a review. But they're an awesome looking car. They were available with a V8 or a V10, and I'm sad to say the last one has already rolled off the production line. You can no longer buy a brand new Audi R8. It was an iconic supercar. I'm not going to say affordable because it was still very expensive, but certainly on the used market they are an affordable way into a supercar. They had breathtaking looks, the V10 sounded awesome. I love the fact that you could see the engine through the glass screen in the back. They were just every bit a supercar. Now I have heard rumours that they'll replace the R8 with an electric-only version, which I'm sure will be very fast in a straight line and everything else, but it won't have that V10 heart. And I just think that's a terrible shame and a massive loss to the automotive world. Right, number two then. We may as well stick with Audi because it is the TT. Now again, I'm really sad to say goodbye to the TT because they've been around since 1998 and I'm a big fan. I've liked and owned every single generation. I remember, funnily enough, when they first came out because my teacher at primary school had one in denim blue and it was just such a stunning car. It looked like it had come from a sci-fi film. It just looked so futuristic at the time, and they've aged really well. It's a really classic design. They were available as a coupe or a convertible, two-wheel drive or quattro all-wheel drive. They did an S version, which I loved, and an RS version. So it's a great shame that they're discontinuing it. I did a review with a Mark III TTS about 2 years ago and I loved that car. It's one of those cars that I would genuinely consider buying even now as a used proposition, just as my commuter car. They're great fun, they're quite sensible to run, they've just got it all really. And although they're only a 2+2, tiny sports car, you can drop the rear seats and you get a decent sized boot. I know it'll leave behind a legacy because it's been in production for over 25 years, but it's just a shame that they don't make that kind of thing anymore. It'll be replaced with some sort of bland crossover vehicle. Doesn't make sense, does it? This is a sad reality really. I truly believe that in about 10 years time, possibly sooner, we just won't have any choice. Every single car that you could buy brand new will be some sort of electric grey crossover. They'll all look the same, they'll all go the same, they'll all sound the same, no sound at all. It just doesn't leave much choice for petrolheads, does it? Only used options. And it also makes my job as a car reviewer, I guess, quite difficult because how can you distinguish one from the other? They're all very similar. Before we get on to the next car on the list, I just need to say a quick thank you to today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Now if you haven't heard of Surfshark, they're a VPN service provider. It protects you so that all your data and your details and your IP address are hidden, so cyber thieves can't view it. In addition to that handy feature, it blocks malware, phishing, ads and other kinds of nastiness, which in turn can speed up your bandwidth and make your device stream things much more quickly. The last thing I want to do is get my card details stolen or my bank details hacked, and since I've been using Surfshark, touch wood, that just hasn't happened. Another good thing about Surfshark is you can change your location settings so you can watch your favourite content from online streaming services like Netflix. You know how sometimes you want to watch a show or a film and it says it isn't available? Well, with Surfshark you can change your location settings so that it thinks you're in a different territory. Then all of a sudden it becomes available. You can download the app very easily from the App Store and you can use it on multiple devices. It's cheap and easy to use. We're all online a huge amount of time these days, so you just don't know how much information you're putting out there, so it's better to be protected rather than not. Especially if you frequently use insecure public Wi-Fi spots such as at airports, train stations and other places. If you're interested in checking out Surfshark and you want to get an even better deal, then use my promo code HighPeakAutos and you'll get 3 months extra totally free. Or click the link below in the video description. Or visit surfshark.deals/HighPeakAutos. So thanks Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Right, next one on the list then. Number 3 then, and this one's quite shocking, it's the Ford Fiesta. Now the Ford Fiesta has been around since the 1970s I think, or certainly early 80s, and it's no longer available as of this year. Now I've featured lots of Fiestas on this channel, and that's because they're just great cars. They're great first cars, great second cars, they're just good at everything pretty much. They're a perfect little city car. I was in one just this morning. I bought a 2006 automatic, which I was going to just fire off somewhere else, but it drove really well, and I thought there's still a little bit of life left in this. So I ran it down to my mechanics, and I'll probably end up massively overspending, but there's just something about it. And you know what's funny? As soon as I got in it, it's a Mark 6 Fiesta. Now, one of my best mates at 17, 18 had one of these cars, and as soon as I got behind the wheel, the smell came back and I was just, 18 again. You know what's weird about this list? This will all be data driven, won't it? So they'll have the research and all that sort of stuff, so they know that there's a decline in sales, and then they're axing them, with good reason. But the Ford Fiesta is always featured in the top 5 best-selling UK cars. So surely there's still a market for that. I just don't really understand. Number 4 then, now this one's another great shame, and it's another car, unfortunately, that I haven't featured on this channel, which is weird because I've featured lots from this brand, but just not one of these. It's the Kia Stinger. Now, the Kia Stinger is a sports saloon with a nice sloping fastback design. They're a really good looking car, especially with the 3.3 litre V6. They offered an awful lot for a reasonable price. It was a genuinely tempting proposition for anyone thinking of buying a 3 Series or a 5 Series. Now, I assume they didn't sell particularly well because it isn't a common car. You don't see an awful lot of them on the road, so that, I guess, is the reason for axing them. But it just seems like a terrible shame. The ones I do see always catch my eye. In fact, I found myself on Auto Trader the other night looking at cheap 3.3 V6s. I don't really know why, because I've got no purpose, but it's that kind of car. It just gets you going. And I'd far rather have one than something from one of the German rivals. It's just much more interesting. Anyway, as of this year, it's no longer available. Now, number 5 on the list. You'll be quite shocked by this, as was I. It's the Mercedes C-Class, but specifically the coupe and the convertible. Now, again, I just don't understand this. I guess it's because nobody wants small cars anymore. Everybody seems to want a giant big SUV. But the C-Class coupe and the convertible just were a perfect car for a lot of people. They're really good looking, cheap to run. You could buy one with a small petrol engine or diesel, or the 63 with a 4 litre bi-turbo. So there was something there for everybody. So I just find it unbelievable that they're axing that model. You know what's weird as well? They used to not make a C-Class coupe. It was kind of the small compact version, and also then they'd make the CLK. That was a separate sort of model. But it's not as if they've replaced that with anything else. So by axing the C-Class coupe and convertible, there's no replacement. It just seems like no one's really put any thought into that. It's weird. You know what it's like, trends come and go. It's the same with fashion, it's the same with everything. And I just hope that by the time, I don't know, in 10 or 15 years' time, when everybody's got a huge 4-wheel drive, there'll be a market there for something sleek and sporty. It's got to happen, hasn't it? I mean, look at mullets, for example. They've come full circle, haven't they? It wouldn't be my choice, but it's an option. While we're on Mercedes then, here's another car that I'm quite sad to see go. It's the Mercedes CLS. Now, the CLS is a 4-door banana-shaped coupe thing that's been around since 2004. And with every generation, I've always been a fan. The first ones, all right, I don't think they've aged particularly well, but when they came out, they were a stunning car. I love the second generation and the third. I've had loads of them, and every single one I've been impressed with. They even did a shooting brake estate version, which is a gorgeous looking car, and they're really rare. I guess they're rare for a reason, nobody bought them. But it's one of those cars, particularly the 350 diesel, that I often find myself looking at on Auto Trader because I would consider buying one. I don't know how many cars my dog needs, to be fair, but it is handy for the dog because you can chuck the dog in the back, and quite economical. And you get a punchy 250 brake horsepower diesel engine. I should clarify actually, the way I keep going on about dog cars, I try and find a purpose for any sort of purchase that I make. Don't think that I'm Cruella de Vil, I only have one dog and it's about this big. So goodbye Mercedes CLS. Now, do you remember how 10 seconds ago I was quite shocked that they were axing the C-Class coupe and C-Class convertible? Well, they're also doing the same thing with the E-Class, which is a great shame again because the E-Class coupe and the convertible, they're gorgeous cars. I'd actually have those over the C-Class because they'd look a bit more mature and grown up. Again, they were available with loads of different engines. You could have a nice frugal diesel or a big petrol engine. There was something for everybody. And what are these people going to buy now that that's no longer an option? They're going to be in a GLC, aren't they, or a GLE? How depressing. There's got to be an opening, hasn't there, for some manufacturer to make nice, sporty, convertible cars. There's got to be. What I don't understand, rather than going down the crossover or SUV route, why can't they make cars like the E-Class convertible or the E-Class coupe, but make EV versions? That would give someone, more choice, wouldn't it? It isn't necessarily a size thing either. Just then in my head I was thinking, well, for an EV to work it needs to be quite a big car to house all the batteries, but that isn't true because you've got things like the Honda E and the Fiat 500e and all those kind of little cars. So it is possible to make a small electric car, so why can't you make an E-Class convertible EV? It's beyond me, I just find it really bizarre. Right, next on the list then, we must visit Jaguar, sadly. Now Jaguar, in my opinion, have completely lost the plot. They don't make a car now that I'd want to buy. There's no F-Type, there's no XK, there's no XF, there's no XE. All they make is the I-Pace, which is quite an ugly car, isn't it, let's face it, and also the E-Pace, or whatever it's called. That's it. There's no XJ. What does the Prime Minister get driven around in now? Alright, they still make the F-Pace, which is quite a good looking car, to be fair, but again, it's another big boxy SUV. Why don't they make sports cars anymore? The whole mantra behind Jaguar when Sir William Lyons started it 100 years ago was grace, pace and space. I just don't think there's anything graceful about an ugly I-Pace. Bring back the XJ and the XK. They're obviously not listening, are they? This is a really radical shift from Jaguar, and it's weird because Jaguar's audience, I think, probably shouldn't say this, but I always assume Jaguar's audience are 60-year-old kind of red-faced men that golf a lot. They don't want EVs, I don't think. I think they want an XK or an XKR, they want an F-Type, they want something to get their blood pumping, not an I-Pace. One of the best cars I've had in the last couple of years was my 5-litre supercharged XKR convertible. I've sold it recently, but I will buy another one, I promise. It was a superb car, and yet you couldn't go and buy a brand new one of those today, even if you wanted to. Doesn't make sense. I certainly wouldn't go to Jaguar now and buy a brand new I-Pace or E-Pace hybrid or whatever. Just wouldn't excite me. And by not having a 3 Series rival or a 5 Series rival or a 7 Series rival, what are they thinking of? Jaguar really seem to be losing the plot, and it's the same with Land Rover. JLR in general, I just don't think anyone knows what's going on. I really, truly believe that I were in charge, because I think I'd do a better job. I'd give it a shake-up. In fact, you know, that could be a good idea for a video, how I would fix JLR. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see that kind of video, because I've already got some ideas. As I researched this video, there were many more cars being discontinued that caught my eye, but I thought these were the most shocking, really. So if you're thinking about buying any of these cars that I've mentioned, you need to act quick because time's running out. The clock's ticking. Let me know in the comments below, by the way, which of these cars I've featured today you're sad to see go, or any others that you know of. Well, I think that's about it then, guys. At least the future's still bright in the used car market because I think everyone will still want to keep hold of these kind of cars. I would anyway, certainly. So that's about it. Thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's now known, and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, cheers guys. See you next time.